I don't know what's going on. That is a completely different guitar.
Hi everyone, my name's James Ivey.
I'm Paul Drew.
And you find us, well, you know what they say?
What?
I do like to be beside the seaside.
Oh, it's nice, isn't it? So we came down today expecting...
sunnier climes.
And
it's peed down all the way, isn't it?
It's down.
We are here down in Bonner's Guitars, down in sunny Eastbourne, or rainy Eastbourne, joining Simon Piggott. So, thanks so much for having us.
Lovely to meet you guys.
It's a first stop on the Bonner's tour, as it were.
Yep.
A day out.
Day out.
Can we just say, Simon used to work for Chandler's, so if there's a man more qualified, I'd be very surprised.
Many moons ago. Yeah.
Many moons ago.
Yeah. 6 years there. It was a good time.
Nice.
Good time, yeah.
But coming to a store that has its own workshop, Luther extraordinaire, we thought, what better way to start than start by talking about what makes a good guitar setup, things to look at, things that you may be able to do yourself with a minimum number of tools.
Tools, yeah, that's it. What to look for.
And like me, so I'm very much someone who goes, whoa, you know, the truss rod is somewhere angels fear to tread.
And there's really nothing to worry about with all that stuff.
And can I ask you a question? So at the moment, there's loads of guitars that you can buy from China.
Yep.
After a decent setup
Yeah.
done by someone like yourself, what is the difference between, say, like a £200, £150 guitar that's set up by you, or a guitar that comes from, say, like the Fender Custom Shop?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I mean, actually, in a cheaper guitar, obviously there's cheaper components to begin with. So the pickups and certainly the finishing, the nitro, you won't have that kind of stuff. You won't have a bow nut. So there's certain things that are obviously, you know, downgraded a little bit that you can't really change in a setup. But however, if you put enough time into a cheap guitar, you can make it play brilliantly, and that's the point. Absolutely, you can take a £100, £120 Squier bullet kind of guitar, and if you get the nut cut right and adjusted right, and even obviously fret dress is one thing as well, because obviously high-end guitars come from a factory that might be Plek machined, that kind of thing. You've got a cheaper guitar won't have that, but if you get the frets all nice and level and adjusted correctly, intonation and pickup heights, you'd be happy to take that in front of an audience and play it professionally if it's done correctly on a cheap guitar, no problem.
This sounds like a challenge we're going to be doing at some point.
We've had a wander round Bonner's, and this one has just come in, and I think it's fair to say it could do with some love, couldn't it?
Well, it's one of the, so this is the thing, when you own expensive guitars that are nicely maintained and nicely set up, when you pick up something that's not,
there's a vast difference in price between that and your green Strat.
Without a doubt, I mean, this is a classic vibe 70s Strat. So what we thought we'd do is to pick up a guitar that doesn't play very well, a guitar that has a very dry fingerboard, as Simon was talking about, or is going to be talking about later on in the video, or before, depending on where this part of the video comes. And frankly, it's quite hard. It's hard to play. I think if I was a beginner and I received this guitar, I would really struggle with it.
So we're going to give it to Simon and, quite frankly, let him work his magic. At some point, I'm going to dive behind the camera so you can actually see up close what Simon's doing and what we're talking about. But I think let's sort of go through your kind of process at examining a guitar, seeing what it needs, and talk about some of the basic adjustments we can do at home with sort of minimal tools and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I brought I guess this is my number one telly. This is the one, or the guitar that I wouldn't sell, and I thought I'd bring it along so Simon can have a look at it.
Yeah.
This actually is an Squier. So originally, I've said this before, but originally it's a single pickup Telecaster, but some of these Fender Custom Shops come routed or routed?
Yeah, whichever really, both work.
Yeah, for
if you're American.
Yeah, for the Telecaster, the neck pickup. So I decided to fit one. So there is a relatively expensive guitar.
Oh, it's nice and light, isn't it?
It is nice and light.
I like that. Great. So
what could be done to that?
So what could be done to it? So for example, on this one, I can see you played it a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, and that
too many G chords.
Too many G chords. Yeah, I can see the cool shapes you've used here, just by the way. But yeah, so I think fret dress on that would be preferable, just to get them nice and even in again. So once they're all even, then you know you're not going to get any fretting out, buzzing as you're playing up the neck. Then you'll get the nut height right on this at that point. So of course that might actually affect that when you actually done the. Let's have a quick check on yours. See if so. Actually, that's cut nicely at the moment. But obviously, when you dress it, you might. Bring those a little bit lower, so you bring those down. Now, getting those the right height from the first fret on there, and also cut right at the right angle, nice and clean, makes it play much nicer. Obviously, when it's open, it rings nicely. It doesn't buzz if it's not cut too low. If it cuts too low, you just buzzes off the first fret. If it's too high, it's uncomfortable to play down here. So to get that dead right, cut nicely, gives it nice playing and a nice sound when you play it open. And then after that, you'll get your truss rod adjusted correctly, which was vintage style, the wrong end, but it's all good fun.
That's the thing. That's the thing about these custom shop guitars. You know, because they're vintage spec. The truss rod is basically this side of the neck.
Unbolt the neck and then all that kind of thing. Make that. Usually you can do it when you've done it quite a bit. You can do it in one adjustment. You kind of know to do that quarter turn or eighth turn. Right. You can see it needs a bit of relief. Now what by that I mean how much curvature of the neck is relief. So you don't want it back bowed because otherwise it's going to rattle here and it's going to be just sounding bad because it's trying to get around the hump. So when a string moves, obviously it moves in a circular motion, tighter at this point, looser in the middle. So you want a little bit of forward bow, which is called relief. Right. Some people like it quite straight or a straighter neck, but a little bit of relief is preferable, really, generally speaking. Not too much. If you get too much relief, the chances are possibly your action will be coming up high off the fretboard. But certainly then if you then start to lower it at the point there where you think the action's good, you will start to choke out up here because obviously the neck's doing this too much and then you start to induce this kind of raised action here. So a little bit of curvature is what you want in the neck, which we can do at home. You can do it with tools if you've got the tools, but at home you can just fret it here and here, the 13th and the 1st, and just touch it with your finger and you want to see, just like on your one, just a little bit of movement you can see there, which is perfect.
Right.
Do that again for Simon. Do that again, that actual move.
Can you see that?
I'm zoomed in nice and close, so yes.
Yeah. So it just moves just a little bit, about the thickness of basically a top string. Underneath that top string would be about the right amount, actually, funny enough. Okay. So that's that part of it. So once you've got the relief right and it's all nicely off the nut and you haven't got one particularly higher than the other and it's all out of balance there, that's all nice. Then you can start looking at kind of what action you like as a player. Some people like it higher than other people because they play particularly hard or that kind of thing. Or some people like it lower because perhaps they play a bit soft and they can get away with playing it low without buzz, but they play a little bit faster. Perhaps jazz players might play fast and soft and they want it a bit lower. Then you want to be measuring probably about 1.5 millimeter under the 12th fret. So from the top of the 12th fret, you don't measure from the fingerboard, usually from the top of the fret to the underside of the string, about 1.5 millimeter would be a sort of sensible low action. Okay. Up to about 2 millimeters for a slightly higher action, really. Okay. And some players like it a little bit higher than that, but you know, that's all preferable. And then once you've got that part, the height right, then you can get your pickups balanced. And that point, usually I fret the outside two strings, the two E strings with my fingers, and then take the measurements from there from the top of the pole pieces or the top of the cover, wherever. And then there are specs online. You'll find that Fender, broadcast, they tell people their specs. They also have got specs as well. But single coils, then about 2 millimeters on the treble side, going down to about 2.5 to 3 on the bass side. Americans talking fouls of an inch, obviously. 3/64 or 5/64, that kind of thing. And yeah, just measure the poles and get them balanced.
I don't know what's going on. That is a completely different guitar. That's almost like you've
bit of time spent and
better time taking the Squier logo, taking a Fender Custom Shop logo off and putting that on it. That feels as good now as any of my guitars.
Great, that's what we aim to do. Yeah, you can do it to anything really. If a bit of time and effort, that's all it really is, you know.
So why am I spending $3,000 on a custom shop when I could be spending £300?
Just the finer points. That's all it is. The very finer points. That's all you're getting really when you get that.
Now we have both said you do get quote unquote lucky with Squiers sometimes.
Yeah.
You do get some amazing Squiers out there.
Yeah.
But that was out of the box.
Yep.
It wasn't in bad shape, but it wasn't in custom
completely
shop trim.
Plain condition. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But that feels as good as any of my. Actually, you've got this man play guitar.
Give it a little bit of a.
It's always nice. It's always nice to hear someone else play. That's great.
So I set it up for that kind of that stratty sound where it's got that kind of bell-like kind of thing.
Right. So this is. My question for you is, when we initially plugged that in, I've got to learn that as well.
Yeah.
I love that. When we plugged it in, the neck pickup was woolly. It was just like going. It was woofy. There was no clarity to it.
Yeah.
So what have you done to it? That's made
Okay, so
it do
in the part of the setup, so once you've got all the strings all balanced nicely and all the right kind of distance, that kind of thing, then you can go on to the pickup heights. Before you do the intonation, actually, you tend to do the pickup heights, and that's a really important part of the sound. So getting those balanced, and as I was saying earlier today, what I do is I press down the two outside strings, and then I actually balance the pickups from the distance of the string. And if you look now, that you can see how much that's probably come down on the bass side to how it may have been before. So not having that too close to the string, pulling it towards it, that horrible woofy kind of sound that you get, really makes a difference.
See, what I would have done in the past, I would have bought that guitar and gone, I need to change that pickup.
Yeah.
And there's no need.
I get that all the time.
Do you?
There was a guy, in fact, last week, there was a guy that came in with an Epiphone and said, change the bridge pickup, it sounds awful. And I looked at it, and it was right away from the strings, and the neck one on this Epiphone, Les Paul, was right up close to the strings. He said, I like the neck one, but I just want the bridge one changed. I said, well, they're not adjusted. I said, have you tried adjusting them? He said, well, no. I said, I can take 5 minutes on it now, just adjust the pickup heights. Give it to you and see what you think. And he came back and said, I don't need a new pickup. That's it. You've just done it. That's now sounding right. And it's just getting that sometimes that finer detail of balance. And they've all got, like Gibson have specs with theirs as well, as Fender do as well.
But the scary thing is, Paul is saying words like as good as any of my custom shops on a guitar with a ticket price of £379.
Yeah.
What I would say to people now, and this is not with any sort of hidden motive or anything, but I would get on Bonner's website now and buy that guitar because that is a cracking guitar.
Well, you think there's even though it's an art, it's also a science, isn't it? I mean, in terms of making the strings resonate properly in the right place all over the fingerboard, so it plays nicely all over the fingerboard. So, like you saying, every guitar is lucky. You could pick up 10 Squier from Indonesia, and it all sounds slightly different from each other just because of the wood. Likewise, you could pick up a Masterbuilt Strat, and it sounds absolutely killer because of the wood, and you pick up the next one. It's not quite. It's a bit duller. That one's got more mid-range. That one's got more. That's just the wood, and you can't really do much about that. They age a bit, but not much over time. They can change the sound a little bit. More acoustics tend to do that more, but the setup thing you can do a lot about, and that's such an important part of the overall sound. And then you can actually make, as long as it's not a silly like cheap guitar where the frets aren't put in the right place. As long as the frets are all in the right place and all that kind of stuff.
But that's all machined.
Yeah.
On I don't know whether this is truth or or internet fiction. But, you know, the machines that they use in the Mexican factory and the Indonesian factory are the same machines as they use in the American factory. It's the same machines. They're set up the same with the same templates and tooling.
Yeah, potentially.
It's just...
Yes, and I think in America, maybe they go a step further with some of it, and some of it's a little bit more hand done as well. So it's perhaps some of the hand shaping of the necks, and then not everything comes out exactly the same. So if you pick up a Player Series Strat, the neck's going to be the same as the other 1,000 players that you can buy that day, exactly the same shape. And you might love that shape, that's great. But if you want something that's a little bit this or a little bit scooped underneath or whatever, you're going to probably have to go a little bit more particular for that. But also, not only some of the hand finishing is quite nice on some of the high-end ones, but just the fact that they'll do a little bit extra, like we were saying about the Plek machine. So some of those places have so you know, as soon as it comes out of the factory, that Strat Ultra is just going to be really nice even on the frets, because they've put that little bit more into it. So sometimes there's a little bit of that, but even that, I've picked up some entry-level guitars, some Chinese Squiers that actually the frets are dead level, and it's not a problem. And you literally just set up straight, and I don't have to, like on this one, I did a little bit of just hokey pokey on some of the fret heights just there when you gave it back to me, just to make sure it played nice and even all over the fretboard. And
But you give every guitar out there in the...
Every guitar goes through me and gets checked. Absolutely, 100%. So if there is any problem, I'll pick it up.
That's awesome.
And and they'll all go out like this.
That's great.
Yeah.
There are plenty of reasons to use box shifters for stuff that... Box shifter is such a dirty word. We all know what that means.
Yeah.
For stuff where there is no human interaction. Electronic stuff, for example. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But something like this, something like a guitar, which needs that human interaction.
It does. Yeah.
Yes, you might pay a little bit more for it because of a store, because of a storefront, and all those sort of things.
Yeah.
Actually, in the real world, you probably won't.
No.
But to have someone like Simon get their hands on it and quite frankly, make it from a playable...
It's a guitar that I would have bypassed to a guitar now that I've gone, that's really good.
Yeah.
You'd be happy to play this take up in front of a crowd and...
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
That's good.
That's what we aim for. Really.
And it makes you realise why Mike Rutherford, for example, has been the recent kind of
internet
bullets,
sensation. Now Squier bullets.
Squier bullets,
No longer a snob. No longer a snob. That's it.
There's a rib gone then, I'm sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right, so really hope you guys got something out of that.
I certainly did.
Yeah, well, we all did. Yeah, that was eye-opening. Thanks, Simon.
Great, you're welcome.
Come and check out. I mean, that guitar's not going to hang around for long. If anyone is looking for a decent guitar that watches our videos, speak to Simon at the shop, and if it's still about, please grab it because it's fantastic.
Cool.
So I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. Really hope you guys got something out of this. If you did get something out of it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click on the bell button, and you'll be notified of any future video that comes out from the Studio Rats. I'm Paul.
I'm James.
I'm Simon.
Cheers, guys.